got my 2 Shih Tzus with me again. My mum told me though that they're not called Shih Tzus, it's something like Shih Tzus. Not Shih Tzus. Bunny, Ruggles, come on sweetie. Come on Bunny. Bunny, you coming up Bunny? It's a little bit hot, so they might not be wanting to sit with me. So what is it that gets liberated? Nothing gets something. Nobody becomes liberated. There is nothing to get. What happens is something falls away. And it's seen that you are always Buddha nature, always beingness, always divinely happy. But when the self is present, it gives the impression of contraction, of suffering. When I say happiness, being, love, divinely happy, whatever I say, divinity, I'm not talking about a sensation. Although it sounds like a sensation. Often what happens when the self falls away is there's an energetic heart chakra opening. And a lot of people then put the attention on the heart opening, the energetic feeling of love in the heart, and believe that that is what they're looking for. But this is to do with the body-mind mechanism, and it's nothing to do with the body-mind mechanism. The body-mind mechanism doesn't become liberated. Nothing becomes liberated. What happens is the self falls away. It's not a positive, it's a minus. You lose everything, you don't gain everything, you lose everything, and see that everything that was ever wanted is always here. There is no I, or there is no separate self experiencing liberation. There is just beingness. Just beingness. And the body, mind, organism does its dance in beingness. There's still different energies that are felt here, different emotions. It's not to do with one particular emotion. Different emotions arise. Even fear, anger. Like today I was on a ride. We were very high up in the sky and fear was very present. But it's so alive, so radically alive. There's no sense of rejecting that fear. And the same with anger. And the same when love's present. So it's not about different energies, it's not about different chakras being open in the body, or different feelings, or different thoughts. However, the energies in the bodies, the feelings, the thoughts can change. But what happens is the self, the second, the one that's interpreting life, falls away. And in that falling away, immense amount of suffering and contraction falls away. So when there's a belief in self, it kind of gives the impression of a separate entity that has got to fend for themselves, create life, do life, get things right, get things wrong. And this is an absolute illusion. So many people say to me, after talking to me for a while about this, and the question pops up, and I'm sure it's the same in the story, in my story, coming to this. What about all the suffering people? What about all the suffering in the world? And liberation isn't about fixing the world or fixing pain and pleasure. It's about seeing there was no one here to suffer the weight of being an individual. We can't possibly ever make life perfect because everybody dies. There's nobody here to make life perfect, but say if there was, everybody would die. Everyone comes against losing things. Life is unreliable, unpredictable. People will do things that you don't want them to do. And life will take its journey. You can never fix. The answer will never be in fixing life. The answer to the end of suffering is seeing that there's nobody there to suffer. And it's not that this character actually doesn't give money or food to people on the street. Actually, this character tends to be on the side of very giving to people. I'm not saying that has to be what happens in liberation, but I'm just trying, liberation is nothing to do with the flow of life. It's not about fixing the world, saving the world. It's about seeing that there's nobody here that ever suffered. Pain and pleasure will always arise. You burn the body and there will be pain. You give the body chocolate and there will be pleasure. Falling in love is pleasure. Losing your car keys is pain. There's always going to be pain and pleasure. And we're not sure, like with the world, what's happening at the moment with melting ice caps, and we don't know what's going to happen with the world. And it's not about fixing the pain and pleasure. It's about seeing, because we can never. There is no one that can fix all this. It's about seeing that there's no one here that suffers, that carries the weight of the world. And in seeing that, pain and pleasure become very indifferent. It's not the same as when there's huge amount of suffering, because suffering is trying to avoid pain and get to pleasure. Life is very simple and very easy. And you won't have the highs of the pleasure that you used to have, because pleasure is dependent on believing that you've got your happiness. So the dynamic of pleasure is, I'm not happy, I'm not complete, I am a separate self that is not complete and needs to find my happiness in the world, needs to find it in money, in others, in the way people perceive me, in recognition, in love. I need to get them, and that will make me happy. So here, that's no longer believed. So there can't be the high of these pleasures. It can't be like, woohoo, yes, I got the love, I got the recognition. Because it's not believed. This is happiness. Existence, beingness is happiness. And it's no longer believed that life, the flow of life, will bring happiness. Therefore, there can't be the real downs of the pains. Because I don't believe that, say, breaking my leg is my unhappiness. It's painful, yes, but I don't believe it to be my unhappiness. So therefore it's not the crashing down of the pains. And pain and pleasure, they're nice. Like nice, not pain, but pleasure's nice and pain's not. Rather not have pain. But it's so indifferent. Someone writes to me on Facebook an abusive message. Someone writes me a nice message on Facebook. Yeah, that's nice, but it's not that huge between pain and pleasure. That dynamic falls away. Because that dynamic is the separate self. The separate self is based 100% on the dynamic of trying to get pleasure and avoid pain. And to get pleasure and avoid pain. And that's the whole dynamic of the separate self. That's the energy of this contraction. This, I am a separate self who's got to make my life happen, who's got to make my life work. And when it's seen through, that everything you ever wanted is here, in this, not in getting your sandwich from the sandwich bar at 12:30 when you're meant to, in your lunch break. Not in finishing work on time, not in avoiding relatives you don't want to see. It's happiness is here in everything. And it's not even quite that. It's like the experience is so empty. However, it's also so full at the same time. It's like nothing sticks. Just experiencing. There's no longer the interpretation. Thoughts still happen, energies still happen, but there's no longer the constant second, the interpretation. I have to have my dinner at 6:30, we've all got to sit down, and if we don't sit down, I'm going to be really angry, or whatever the interpretation. There's no filter. It's so radically alive. Even today, when there was a fear, it was like, but it's amazing because there's just no sense it's wrong. There's no filter of it. It's like fear, wind blowing in the hair, light. And it's just the rejection which is seeking pleasure and avoiding pain, which gives the impression of I've got to make life, I've got to create life, I've got to do this right, I got it wrong. But it's not about stopping that, because you can't stop that. There is nobody. There is simply life happening. This dynamic is the illusion. But it's not some individual's delusion. You can't see through the seeking patterns. It can be seen through by nobody, by emptiness. And this message is so brutal because I'm saying there is no hope for the seeker. Because there is no seeker. There is nobody in that dynamic. It's just a dynamic. The same as the way all this arises. It's so impersonal. And believing this is about any experience is setting up seeking. So believing it's about feeling love or feeling an emotion is setting up an idea. This is it, I've got to get it. You are it. Behind all of that. Not quite behind, but I can't think of a better word. It's about all my energies going up. It's about releasing all these emotions. And one thing that fascinates me about talking with people is that a lot of people that I talk to have worked out their story so incredibly well. Like, they understand. There is so much understanding around the psychology, better than Lisa ever knew her story. But this sometimes happens in the story, is a working out of the story. Like in the story of Lisa, there was a lot of working out of the story, but that's not what it's dependent on, because it's nothing to do with the body-mind mechanism. It's about the energy of seeking falling away and seeing the isness of being. What all dogs, babies, animals get. It really is being the sky, and then in front of the sky is the clouds, which we'll say is the ego. And it's like the sky believing it's the clouds. Sky is always the sky in which the clouds come across. And it's like if there was a massive thunderstorm. It's like the sky believing it's that thunderstorm and being really disturbed by being the thunderstorm. Believing it's this big argument between two clouds. It was always the sky. So the sky didn't need to purify itself. Didn't need to energetic release. It's just when the clouds cleared, all it was skyness, sky. And I know this is horrible for the individual, because the seeking energy wants to seek and wants to have hope that it can find some answer to this problem. And to say it's all God's will, or it's all written, or it's all predestined is brutal to that seeker, to the one that believes it can do and get life right. And it's understood here because of a memory of this happening to Lisa, to me. But the story feels so impersonal now that I often say Lisa, because it's just so impersonal. And so many people hear what I say and they love what I say and they listen to every video, and then they can't help it. Of course they can't help it because there's no one there doing it, but the energy of the seeking then writes, and what can I do? There is really nobody there doing, but this sensory perception, the thoughts, the energies give that impression. It's so convincing, it's so real. There's just experiencing by and for nobody. And in that experience, it's absolute not knowing. It's just isness. So then the question comes to, how do you know all this? And often I give the answer, well, in the story, this is what I learned from my teachers. But really, it's just what's coming out of the mouth here. It was just what's written. And when someone gets angry with me, I don't even think of reasons. I don't even think it's just what's written. It's just blah. Nodding here and then we're chatting about something else. There is nothing, nobody here. And it's like, if you were to ask, who are you then, or what are you then? It's like, I don't even know, I'm just amness. It doesn't even arise. I think it would, but it just isness. I have no idea who or what I am, just am. And it's so empty. It only appears not empty with the resistance of the separate self. It only appears not empty with, no, I've got to do and make life better. And that gives the whole impression of somebody. And I'm not saying don't do the chakra stuff, or don't do the meditation, or don't do emotional release. How could I say don't do that? I'm saying there is no one there doing that. It's just happening, and it's happening absolutely perfectly. You couldn't do anything differently. And if the story is the emotional release, and then can you say, well, will it get me nearer or further away from liberation? It is what it is. How can I possibly say that? I know nothing. I can't claim life and grab life. Yes, it's getting me nearer or further, getting you nearer or further to liberation. It just is what it is. It just isness. And in another way, you could say, how can any action affect another action? Because the past action is only a thought arising now. Where is the past? It's a thought arising now. So to believe it affects the next moment is believing that this thought that's arising now really happened. Where is the past? Where is the future? Just a thought, a sensation and an energy arising now. Where is your mum, your dad, your school, your workplace? The thought arising in this now. Can you actually definitely be sure that it's independently arising? That the past actually happened? Because where is it? So to say, can all my efforts over the last 20 years of meditation create liberation? It's firstly saying that there is a separate self that can affect life, that you are separate from all of this. You can affect, create and make life. And it's secondly saying that there is a past. Where is the past? If the urge comes up for 10 years of meditation, then that's what it is. And it couldn't be any other way. And does it or does it not lead to liberation is absolutely irrelevant. It's relevant, I know, to the seeker that's suffering and wants a way out. But that claiming and believing that it is a separate self that can do and make life is what it wants a way out from. There's nothing here. There's nothing there looking out. There's just looking out. From nowhere. This is a freedom. Freedom doesn't come from a solution in the flow of life. And this question that a few people have asked, this one guy asked it in a particular way which made me chuckle. He said, everyone is afraid of letting Jack the Ripper out. And what he means by this is that afraid if you give up seeking or give up control, that the monster or the devil will come out of you. Like a lot of people feel that they're restraining the devil, they're being nice to people. And what happened here in the story was as more and more seeking patterns fell away, as more and more, and it's very impersonal, I'm not saying as I got rid of seeking patterns, but in the story as seeking habits fell away, as the seeker began to fall away, there was a period of socially not having filters. And a bit of a devil coming, like devil, when I say devil, like anger and like brute honesty coming out towards people as they began to see the happiness or wasn't in being nice to people or in maintaining a self-image. I no longer needed, there was no longer the belief that presenting myself a certain way was my happiness. There was a bit of a monkey that came out here. But then who is it that judges the monkey? Just another set of seeking patterns. It's just impersonal. And if devil actions come out of you, there's nobody there doing them. Where's the blame? Where's the guilt when you no longer see a doer? And it's really important because what happened here was as Lisa became, the character became a bit of a monkey, and it was seen that I really couldn't, there was no control over these actions of being rude or aggressive or not nice to people, apparently not nice to people, in a seeing that I couldn't do it or not do it, it was just what was happening. Therefore, the seeing in other people that they couldn't or really control, they couldn't at all control their behaviour. They weren't in control of their behaviour. So the more that it was actually expressed, this anger and rage that was inside, the more I saw that it was so impersonal, and that when others were doing it to this being, it was nothing to do with me. It was nothing to take personally. It's just this energy coming out. Seeing that you're not the doer 100% so deeply, even in bad actions, even when you're acting badly, apparently badly in society, and then seeing that there's no one there doing that is absolute compassion. Because then when you look at others, you can't blame them or tell them you've done a wrong action. Because there's such deep, clear seeing that there's nobody there that can hold or cover up or deny this. It cannot be believed here that somebody did a bad action, that somebody separate and got it wrong. It just cannot. And it's not even intellectually thought about at all. It's just anger from another comes up here towards this being, and it's just seen as absolutely impersonal. The way it's seen here is how you'll see others. So if you see a doer here, you'll see others as a doer. So if you see yourself as doing a wrong or right action, you'll therefore judge others as wrong or right, good or bad. But when there's no doer here, you cannot judge another. You cannot blame or hate another. There's just absolute love and acceptance of them. I'm not talking about chakra love or energetic experience love, like emotions. I'm talking about absolute acceptance. No judgment, no filter on that person for the way they're being. It's just falling away and arising completely impersonally. And it seems that the way that this works in the apparent story, and I like to say apparent story because it's no longer seen here that any past action created a present action. It's just this. So I always say the apparent story, and the apparent story is only ever arising in this. So it's like the story that goes with this, the story of liberation that goes with this. And it's not always the case. Other people's story of liberation that goes with that are not always the same. But for the majority, it's a process drawn out over time where layers and layers of seeking energy begin to fall away. And more it's seen that there's nobody here doing anything. And often in that apparent story, it starts off in teachings where you're taught doership, so you're taught that you can stop your thoughts or watch your thoughts or become more aware or more present. And then over time, as the self is investigated more and more dynamics are seen, it slowly leads you through a process of seeing that nobody ever did anything. Nobody created, made, did liberation. Liberation was the falling away of the one that believes in time and space, right and wrong, good and bad, can do, can't do, love and hate, female, male. And it's not that this body isn't still lived in apparent time and space and language and duality. It is. Like someone said to me the other day, how does Lisa then not poo herself continuously? Or if she knows nothing, if there's no one there, how does going to the toilet or eating the food happen? It's the thought arises, go to the toilet, eat your dinner. But there's no one there, and the action arises too, but there's no one there that created or made that thought. It just arises and falls away. There's no one there writing the thought, oh yes, you must think this to go to the toilet, you must think this to go and have your lunch or dinner. It's just all arising spontaneously and falling back into nothing. Did you ever create a thought? Now you can give the impression that you create a thought, like I'm going to think about elephants, and then elephants are thought about. But who ever thought, I'm going to think about elephants, and then elephants are thought about? That comes from nowhere too. If you follow them all back, there's no centre. There's no self. And action always happens with doership, with apparent doership. But it's not because of the doership, it's not because of that it happens, it's just written this way. So like the thoughts come up, I'm going to make myself a cup of tea, or I'm going to go and walk the dogs, or the energy comes up to walk the dogs. So it happens in the apparent dualistic universe, in this world of apparent time and space. But when the self falls away, there's just the immediacy of this, rather than the energetic contraction of believing it all, taking it all for real. To just be without a second. To shout at someone, and they're not, I shouldn't have done that, I'm a bad person for doing this, I did this, I shouted at someone, I'm a bad person, but they shouldn't have annoyed me. If they hadn't annoyed me, then I wouldn't have shouted at them. Oh, I hate them for making me shout at them and making me look like a bad person. There's just experience. No second. No self claiming life. I love this when I speak about it. It's so full of contradictions. I remember hearing teachers always say this is impossible to talk about. It really is. It's lucky it's not dependent on words. It's just written. I'm just playing my role. Ruggles! Ruggles bunny! We need a little bunny! Come on, bunny! Bunny! Come on! Come on, bunny! No, it's too hot. Bunny! Bunny! What a cutie. What a cutie. Oh look, and then the camera around to look at her. I think. There she is. She's a cute bunny. Oh yeah. Yeah, what a cutie. Here you are. We love you, bunny. Yeah, we do. You Shih Tzu. Shih Tzu. You see what she's doing? She's licking my leg. Now my wrist. She's a good little girl. This is just beyond any type of imagination. I can never, Lisa, the character, can never have imagined this. Although it was always known, the character could never have imagined this. You're all Buddha natures. Did I say that right? You all have Buddha nature. You're all Buddha. You're all God. You're all absolute divinity. It's just the appearance of the second, the self, gives the impression of separation, of incompleteness. And it's an absolute lie. No one ever suffered. No one's ever there. Namaste.